Hey everyone, Scott Jansen here. So before we get into today's very special video, you might notice that you cannot see me. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues with the camera, but without further ado, let's dive into the video. The camera is irrelevant. What I'm going to be talking about today, guys, is something very, very special. Let's talk about the famous Ericksonian line, "That's right." Now, in more advanced terms, especially in our advanced conversation hypnosis program, we talk about something called process instructions. And that's all this line is of "that's right" is a process instruction. But because it's been around for so long, so many hypnotists and therapists use it, they know about it. There's not a lot of people understand the mechanics of how it works. And I'm more interested in that. So what I want to do in this video is give you a bunch of different phrases that you can use that are sometimes more powerful than the Ericksonian version, which is "that's right," and how you can formulate these for yourself. So as I mentioned, these are the Erickson process instructions. So to first understand the power of these, when you can use them and what you can say, let's create a clear definition of what they are. So believe it or not, the statements are relevant. It's all about the timing. People become obsessed with the two words, "that's right." And while the statement is fine, there's other versions I'm going to give you. It's not about what Erickson was saying. It's about the timing and when he was saying it. And that's what I want to talk about today. So a process instruction, in more common terms, is more commonly known as a suggestion. We call it a process instruction because it's a lot shorter. Process instruction is a short form, and this is key, indirect suggestion. We all know as therapists, we've got direct suggestions, which would be something like "go into trance now," or "you're feeling relaxed," compared to an indirect suggestion, which are my favorite, which is more of a process instruction, which could be something like "that's right," or "there you go," or "I know." Now you might be thinking, well, Scott, how the hell is that a suggestion? There's no hypnosis language or anything like that. What I'm going to be showing you guys will allow you to use these statements without ever sounding hypnotic. Now, why is this important? We all know the craziness of the language. And if we use too much hypnotic language, what are we now doing? We are going to directly influence the conscious mind to step in and potentially block these suggestions. Why? Because they become obvious. You might have talked to a newly studied therapist, newly studied hypnotist who's obsessed with the language, and they start trying to put in this language into everything they say, and they just sound ludicrous. It sounds strange. It sounds obvious. And all that happens because you've got a client sitting in front of you, especially when you're using it therapeutically, is a client can now start to think consciously, why are you talking like that? That sounds ridiculous. Why are you using those words? This doesn't make sense. The wall of resistance goes up, and it's very, very hard to influence that client hypnotically. So process instructions is a way to use a hypnotic suggestion without ever sounding hypnotic. Pretty cool, right? So a process instructions are short form indirect suggestions that should be used, and this is another key, on naturally occurring trance phenomena, more known as what I'll talk about today, more known as an unconscious moment. Now, this is a term I coined. You'll hear me talk about this in a lot of videos and even our clips of our ACH training. An unconscious moment is a naturally, like an organic occurring trance phenomena. It's something that a client will express naturally without you having to force it. Now, why is this important? Well, let's create a demarcation between both. When you're using words like, or statements like "go deeper," "you're going into trance now," "every time you breathe, your eyes are getting sleepier," all of those pretty common statements, what are you now doing? You're now trying to force a trance. You're now trying to force a client into a trance. And these are definitely not as powerful as a client going into a trance naturally because of the context. Now, how process instructions come into it is we're going to utilize, this is key, utilize what a client gives us instead of trying to force it. So we teach in our ACH training is we tell our students, do not ever try and put your client into trance. Do not force them. Don't use the language. Do not force them to go in a direction you want them to go. Why? Because now you're trying to control things. Instead, if you're patient enough and you understand these process instructions, which I'll go through in a moment, you can just be patient and wait for a client to go to those places naturally, utilize them, which is a big Ericksonian tool, which a lot of people miss. Utilize what they give you, feed it back to them with a process instruction, and it is 1,000, if not 1,000,000 times more powerful, the word I'm going to use, more powerful than any forced trance. I don't think in my whole history of being a therapist, I ever told a client to go into trance. Well, I know I didn't. I didn't tell them to close their eyes. If I did ever use those statements, it's because they were going there naturally, and I just utilized it. This takes the pressure off me to try and perform, takes the pressure off the client to try and go to places they might not want to go. Because a lot of people are obsessed with, I've got to relax my client. Well, what if your client can't relax? My client has to go through a regression or a visualization. Well, what if your client can't visualize? You're now forcing them. We don't want to do that. So without further ado, let's dive into what these are, guys. Let me just remind you, the statement is irrelevant. The timing is key. So I'm going to give you different variations. Process instructions are short form, indirect suggestions that should be used to enhance naturally occurring trance phenomena known as unconscious moments. So the timing of using these process instructions, when you see a client going into trance, use them. If you see a client's eyes start to flutter, use it. If they find a resource, use it. If they naturally start to have some sort of hypnotic phenomena, use it. Don't force them. I'm not going to tell a client's hand to lift all by itself. I'm going to wait for it to happen. That's if it does happen. We all know clients are different and they're not all going to express the same sort of hypnotic phenomena. But if my client's hand starts to lift, I'm going to use it. They start to go into trance, I'm going to use it. The way we use it is with these process instructions. So that's the quick form version of the thing here, guys. So we'll start with that's right. So let's say I'm sitting down with my client and I'm talking, using my conversation myself, I'm investigating the problem. And out of the blue, a client looks at me and says, wow, I feel really confused. And I can see their eyes starting to blink a lot. Naturally, it's naturally occurring. I might use the Ericksonian line, which is, that's right. There you go. That's right. So what am I doing right here? I'm waiting for the moment to happen, the unconscious moment, and I'm telling the unconscious moment, which is me directly talking to their unconscious mind, do more of that. I'm ratifying, I'm enhancing it. Now, consciously, a client might think, that's right. What are you talking about? But I don't care about the consciousness. I can ignore that. I'm speaking to the other part of them. So it's almost like you're going to have a conversation with both parts of their mind at the same time. So that's right is very classical. The timing is key. Don't just throw it out there any random time because it won't do anything. No matter what your mentors have told you, it won't do a thing. It's not the statement, it's the timing. So with that in mind, if it's not the statement, it's just the timing, what are some other versions? One of my favorite is there you go. And you want to use this to enhance any unconscious moment. So if I'm sitting there investigating my client's problem, I'm untying the knots. You've heard me use that phrase a lot. They might be finding some resources more positive. They might be having an emotional thing going on. I'm going to use the statement of, there you go. Bit of hypnotic voice. If I can see them, I'm going to be looking directly at them. Bit of a smile on my face. There you go. I could use both together. That's right. There you go. It's timing, guys. I'm not going to throw it out there just for the sake of it and think it's something magical in the words, because it's not. And Erickson even said this. It's not the words, it's the timing. But that's for another video. A lot of people missed that part. There you go. I'm basically saying, hey, unconscious mind, whatever you're doing right now, you're doing it for a reason. Do more of that. I can see you. Let's play with that. There you go. So I'm saying the unconscious mind, there you go. Do more of that. Okay. So another version is all the way. Now, this is a good one if you want to use this to deepen a naturally occurring trance. So my client's sitting there, I'm talking to them and they might go silent and I can see their eyes starting to flutter. They're having the long blinks, their eyes are glazing over, anything like that. I then might just say all the way. Why? Because they're going there. Now you might be thinking, well, Scott, hang on. Are you just telling them to go into trance? I'm not. They're going there anyway. And this is crucial. Wherever my client wants to go, I'm going to go with it. By using a statement like all the way, they're already going there anyway. They're 50, 60, 80% into trance. I'm just going to push it. Now, do all clients have to close their eyes? No. Do they have to go into these formal trances? No, that's not what I'm talking about. But if that's where they need to go based on where their unconscious mind wants to go, who am I to say otherwise? I'm just going to say to the unconscious mind, all the way. There you go. That's right. I'll do that. I'm going to throw this statement out there, pause for a bit, let the client absorb it. Maybe 5-10 seconds later, there's no real set in stone of how many times I want to say it or how long the length should be. I'll just say, there you go. I see it happening again, like it's building up. There you go. Wait for it again. That's right. So I might chop and change them around, guys, but you can hear my process here. Once they go into this thing we call trance, maybe their eyes close and they start to process stuff, my job is done. I don't have to keep talking like it with every breath. You're going deeper and you're finding blah, blah, blah. You're going to regression. I have to do any of that stuff. Process instructions are way more powerful, guys, if the timing is correct. Another one I love, and this confuses a lot of students when we first teach them, but it's so powerful, is if a client expresses an unconscious moment to me, it could be by them saying something, could be them thinking, eyes fluttering, maybe they become emotional, they find a resource like, oh my God, I just figured it out. Another one is they might ask if what they're saying to me as far as the resource they found makes sense. So I have a lot of clients, they might babble for a bit and look at me and go, I don't even know if that makes sense, but it seems right. I'm going to look at them with a smile on my face, nod my head and say, I know. Now, I don't know anything. I'm just the therapist sitting there watching this stuff unfold. And I don't have to know these things. This is a bit of a cheek and tongue way to say, I knew you were going to say that, even though I didn't. you're in the right place, even though I wouldn't even know if that is the right place, but you're going there, so it must be. And I'm saying, I know, like I expected it to happen. Now, what this does back for me is it puts like that halo of expertise around what I'm doing. It makes the client think like, wow, Scott really knows what he's doing, or this therapist really knows it. It's like they can read my mind sort of thing. And it works so, so well, guys. So if a client expresses an unconscious moment, becomes emotional, don't get them out of the emotions. Just say words like, I know. There you go. Doing well. They might say, well, should I be feeling this? I'm not sure if I'm even making sense. You look at them and go, I know. And it fills them with some comfort that they don't have to make sense. Now, we can spend all day just talking about this statement and the mechanics of it, but hopefully you can hear my point. Where's the hypnotic language? It doesn't exist. It's all the timing. If a client's going there, it's way more powerful, way more conducive to a trance if they go there naturally. I'm just utilizing it. No language whatsoever. Another one is more of that. Use that to enhance an unconscious moment. If you see a client's eyes fluttering, there you go, more of that. They get emotional, that's it, more of that. I know. All the way now, whatever you want to do, use a myriad of these things, guys. You can hear the process here, okay? So these are just a few outside of the that's right statement, because people just get so caught on the language. What I want to avoid, actually there's one more, sorry, silence and eye contact. Silence and eye contact, really not a statement. But if your client's gone into an unconscious moment, you might see to have a heavy fixation on eye contact with you, put a smile on your face and just look at them. That smile of comfort, have that, comfort inside your heart when you're working with your client, that goes way beyond any sort of language. Anything you can say of comfort has no relevance or no impact greater than just looking at your client with a smile on your face. Like everything's going to be okay. You don't have to say anything. Let the client sit in it. Let them well in this process. Let them well on the new resource. If they find something that uncovers their deepest, darkest secrets that they needed to understand in order to quit smoking, lose anxiety, whatever it is, let them sit in that. Just put a smile on your face, pure eye contact, and you can use that to enhance an unconscious moment. Pausing is another one as well. Now, it's not really an advanced thing, but the mechanics are advanced because people are too busy trying to understand the language and learn the language pattern cards and all that ridiculous stuff when it doesn't need to be done. What I do want to avoid, and I cringe when I hear this, when therapists say, go deeper, go 1,000 times deeper, go into trance now, close your eyes, go into trance. These are direct, obvious, and they can be argued and negated. Now, a lot of people say, well, Erickson used these things. Erickson was on a whole nother level with this stuff. So he could say something very direct, but it came across as so indirect to a client's mind that it's beyond explanation how he knew how to do that. What I'm talking about here, as soon as you're obvious to your client, like you need to go find this scene, or you need to go deeper. Every time I touch your hand, you go 1,000 times deeper. What are you now doing? You are concentrating on the hypnosis part. And we all know, especially me following my work for a while with ACH, I'm not interested in the hypnosis. I'm not interested in depth. I'm not interested in you finding a scene. I'm not interested in, floating above your timeline, because this is all the fancy hypnosis stuff, and it is irrelevant when it comes to the therapy. Process instructions are my go-to therapeutic tool. So if someone says, well, how did you have someone quit smoking? I waited. Obviously, that's just the symptom. I waited for the unconscious moment to express itself. I use a process instruction. Bang, that would collapse realities. That would untie the biggest knots. It would have clients understand what's going on in their life compared to where they are to where they want to be. It's just a life-changing experience, but I'm not telling my client, go into trance now, because now I'm telling a client what to do. So instead of focusing on the hypnosis, we focus on the therapy. So process instructions are more about therapy, the things you can use to enhance what is already naturally happening with your client. So guys, hope that made sense. Write a list down if you want to leave in the comments below which one you prefer, or if you've got any other ones. Try this for yourself, guys. Next time you're sitting with a client, wait for an unconscious moment to happen by itself. You've got to be a bit patient. Then throw one of these statements out there. Wait for a response. Maybe throw another one out. Wait for a response. Pause for 30 seconds. Don't say anything. Wait for another moment to show up. Throw another one out there. And it's just this back and forward dance that you have with your clients. And you'll notice, if you want to use the word deep, this trance thing will go. You notice how impactful this therapeutic interaction will be. It goes way beyond the hypnosis. Because we all know, even though we're taught by mentors, it's all about the hypnosis and deepening and all that sort of rubbish. Clients come to see us for therapy. And in ACH, what we talk about is let's do the therapy first, And if the hypnosis or the trance thing that we know as more classical hypnosis shows up organically, that now becomes the icing on the cake. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully this is informative. See you on the next video.